Amazon, I passed. Microsoft, I passed. Shopify, I passed. There's like Wayfair, Pinterest, and then there's Google. Um, so those are the 7 companies I got an offer at, and then Dropbox failed me. You will see that like during 2020, I grinded like every day. I truly believe that anyone who just puts in the time to working on these questions and can get there, because I
Yeah.
really don't think the bar is all that high.
Cool. So, Steven, can you
Hmm?
introduce yourself? I guess just briefly, just people who don't know who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a senior software engineer with around 6 years of experience. Uh, so my last job, I worked at Facebook, where I was a senior E5 ads engineer, where we basically built a whole bunch of A/B testing and stuff like that for ads, for
Mm.
example. And then previous to that, I was a SUI SRE. So like for reliability and stuff, where we're building software for like to keep a lot of like the GCP stuff up and running. And then previous to that, I was mainly like a backend engineer working at like sort of like a workflow engine. Uh, and I was there for about 2 years. And previous to that, I was like a full stack engineer working on like another sort of like custom wrapper for another company. But for each one of them, I could go a little bit in detail if you want.
Yeah.
Um,
No, well, one thing I'm kind of curious too about is like how'd you get started at like just before you were at those companies? Like how did you get into I guess Google or Meta? Um, and yeah, I don't know.
um,
Like, were you always like a smart person? Because I feel like you have to be like pretty smart to get into there. I don't
uh,
know.
so I'll give you like a whole spiel from university. So
Hmm.
I would never say I was like all that smart in high school, university. Like I was never like the top of the class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't think my grades were bad, but I was never like the top 1 or 2%. Um, I went to
Also,
a
do you
decent
say
school,
you're?
which is
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say yeah. You said decent school, but I was.
yeah.
You
So I
can
went to
continue.
University of Toronto. Yeah.
Okay.
So I basically studied there for 4 years, and in those 4 years, I had like 1 full year of internship where I worked as like an automation developer.
Okay.
Um, when I was working there, sort of like I always say this to people whenever I talk about my schooling years, is that most of my education at school was kind of useless, except for the fact of that 1 year internship
Oh, nice.
where not like I really did. Yeah. But it was also really weird because when I was doing that internship, I like really hated that job too. Just
uh,
it wasn't because of like this tech stack or anything. It was purely because it was like an hour and a half commute out, and I was driving an hour, like 3 hours,
yeah,
two to
that's
three
rough.
hours every day. And I remember like when I was just graduating, they threw me a return offer, and I was like, no, I'm good. I'll go look for another job. And similar to like a lot of you guys, it took me like 3 months and to like find a job.
Hmm.
It was like really depressing. It was very scary at the time too. But like the market wasn't nearly as bad, I don't think. So I was able to just get like a proper like regular tech job. This was a company called Blue Cat.
Okay.
At Blue Cat, I was sort of like I got basically placed on this team where it's like we basically worked around like so basically the main application was like this really old legacy app that
Hmm.
no one really knew how to work with, and basically we wrote a whole bunch of like a wrapper around it that basically called a bunch of like the internal APIs that they don't really release to the public, and even like modify. Basically, it's like an app. Do you know like IP management?
No, like IP addresses. I don't know, or intellectual
Yeah.
property.
So
I
like
don't
a
know.
DNS. Well, basically, the main product sort of manages DNS or DNS servers and a whole bunch of like basically your internal networks, right? Like how yeah your own internal intranet and stuff like that. Basically, all the set of IP addresses that given DNS system. And basically, we wrote like a set of API. Basically, we wrote a set of API that allowed them to run like custom scripts instead of going into the manual client to like edit certain things. They could have just called one of our APIs, and that was like one of the biggest things we worked on. And from here, like we basically allow like a whole automation layer essentially. I
Okay.
remember my first job. I was like, so I was just fresh out of school and stuff like that. And I did like it was back then it was quite easy to like land one of these mid-sized companies. I remember they asked me, um, it was like this really easy Leetcode question where it was just find the string And
Hmm.
if the string is in this like if the substring is in the string, you delete it and then you try to do it again. Like recursively, right? So if like
Yeah.
it's like ABA and that string you're looking for, if it's like AB ABA and then B like A at the end of that, you basically
Hmm.
find ABA and you concatenate it and then it goes back down to it. And I remember I was able to do that. I don't remember back then, so I wasn't even that good at Leetcode. So
Yeah.
I did like through it recursively and I was able to get it. And then they're just like they hired me and stuff like that. Um, although yeah, and I worked there for around 2 years. I basically had because it was like a full stacks, um, like a full stack company.
Yeah.
I was allowed to like touch anything I wanted, and so basically I was basically allowed to work on the back end, the front end, whichever part that I felt interested in. Like how it worked was just like you pick up a ticket and then you just whatever part you want you just talk about and stand up like hey I'm picking this up and they're like sure and then eventually you just start working on it. um the funny thing about that company was like after 1 year of working there the entire team left.
Yeah.
um Everyone on the team including the manager sort of went to like better greener pastures. Like it wasn't a bad company but it wasn't one of those big tech companies. Like one person went to Uber, another one person went to like a startup in the Bay Area, another person just like the manager who I was actually really close with decided to go to a separate company.
Hmm.
So you can imagine at the time I became the senior engineer on the entire platform of the team at like 1 year of experience.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
That's interesting. And
Very
I guess when you
interesting time.
say,
I
and when
hired a
you,
few people along the way too, but I really didn't know what I was doing. So, and then we hired like I remember in my time I hired like 3 people, and then they were able to get the product up and running again. But I think after like 2 years there, I sort of felt like I wasn't really getting what I wanted from this company. As
hmm
in like back then I was very much in the grind mindset to be like I want to progress further in my career. I need to get to one of these big tech companies, and this wasn't it. So I
yeah.
needed to go. And another reason was also because like one of the managers I hired at the time, he became a very big micromanager.
Hmm.
um, yeah, in the interview, he was sort of very calm, but then when you actually started working with him, he started nitpicking everything. So we had a few chats, but then eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm out of here. And I
Okay.
basically went to where my old manager went to, this place called UKG, which was like a huge, if you want to take a look, it's like a huge
Yeah, I can.
HR software company. Yeah, they're based out in Miami and stuff like that. And I basically started working there at oh,
Hello? Oh, wait. Wait, have I been,
can you still hear?
wait, did I mute myself? Have I always been muted or? Okay, I don't know what happened. That's
Yeah,
weird.
uh,
Okay.
sure. Uh,
Um,
anyways,
yeah, so,
so
okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Well, it kind of sucks I was muted, though, I guess, for most of that. But, no, yeah, okay, that's interesting. And, like, so when you said I think you said it was like Blue Cat or something. You said it's like a mid tier.
yeah,
I guess, like,
yeah.
when you mean that, like, I don't know anything about Canada companies. Is that like even like a significant? Like, would anybody know what that company's name is essentially in Canada?
Uh, if you work in the space, you would.
Okay.
If you don't, no, no, you
Okay.
wouldn't. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like there was like 100 people in engineering. That's about it. And
Okay.
then there was around like 500 people in the company in total. It was
Okay.
more of a sales company, honestly. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
UKG
And
was like a much larger company. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. And it sounds like too that you were. I can kind of see like you said you were like grinding too because it sounded like I mean you were doing like a ton of stuff after everybody like left.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
hiring people and things like that. I'm get like one thing I'm wondering is like I guess yeah, did you have that drive or like did that drive come before or was it like just during? Because for example, right, uh, I'm thinking like if you weren't doing leak code at all in college, or at least you said you weren't that good, but I don't know if you were doing leak code. But
Mhm.
essentially, what I'm trying to do is like yeah, like was there like a moment I guess where you were just like okay, let me turn on these engines.
Yep. So that's actually a good point because when I was leaving Blue Cat, I was interviewing at a few places,
Mm-hmm.
and I interviewed at Instacart, which one of my coworkers actually went to work there. He actually referred me like, "Hey, come to Instacart and stuff like that." And told me the interview wasn't that bad, and I went in and I failed like a pretty simple Leetcode question.
Okay.
And I remember that was like a trigger in my mind. I was just like, okay, um, if this is what employers want, this is what like as opposed to like opposing against it, I'm just like, okay, I'm just never gonna fail a technical interview ever again, right?
Nice.
That's how I went into it thinking.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have the time because at that time I was already looking to leave, so I didn't really have the time to prep. So I sort of just went with my old manager's company, UKG, because he
Yeah.
gave me an interview, and then the question was very simple too there. Um, but it was just like it was delete. It was basically delete duplicate letters. Like whenever you have two letters together, you delete them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it has but it was like a pretty simple question. But I remember during that entire company, I remember when I joined UKG, I'm like, okay, this is a fine company, but in this time, I am gonna spend like my entire time here working on LeetCode questions. And if you go into my LeetCode profile,
Yeah.
you will see that like during 2020, I grinded like every day. Um, Now, granted, I did have some background in all this programming stuff. Like in school, they taught you a whole bunch of algorithms or like a lot like that, and they taught you how to do like you know, like they taught you Dijkstra's and stuff like that. But like realistically, I basically had to re-remember everything. Although it wasn't as hard, but I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was at UKG for about 2 years. I initially only wanted to stay for like a year because of COVID and stuff sort of became comfortable. I stayed there. And I think after COVID finally like out, and I heard like a whole bunch of people are hiring, I decided to like, okay, now why don't we actually give it a try? So I took a break from LeetCode in 2021. I began for the entire year of 2021. I just did not LeetCode at all
Yeah.
but all of 2022 I LeetCoded. Um, got the LeetCode shirt and I sort of just like hit a stop there. Be like, okay, I got the shirt. I think we're good. Um, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's when I started to do my prep for all the interviews. There was a lot of I got basically what I did was I tried to conglomerate like basically like shove all the interviews within like 1 month radius. So
Mm-hmm.
um, basically it was like two interviews a week or something like that. And it was like two on sites a week, so it was quite exhausting. But yeah, there's a lot of different resources I used. I definitely is LeetCode was definitely one of the like I definitely like how do I put it this way? Um, I think as you go through it, um, you start to realize that you really only need a certain level of lead code to pass these interviews. Like you don't need to like yeah, you don't really need to be like 2200 to make it into Google, right? And make it into like Facebook or stuff like that. Like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned before. Like I truly believe that anyone who just puts in the time to working on these questions and can get there. Because I
Yeah.
really don't think the bar is all that high.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You told me
and
you use like interview IO for like mock interviews too.
yeah. So like, I think a lot of it is um, a lot of people. So yeah, so I did a whole bunch of interview IOs, a whole bunch of prompts to prepare, and yeah, you just basically you have to get a lot comfortable just like talking to people and talking about your experiences and stuff like that. And I feel like that's like a huge thing, because like one of the biggest things I felt like was going for me was while I did get the questions right, basically every interview I was sort of like just chatting with the interviewer like you and me here, right? Like we're just like talking like friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I even like threw out a few jokes here or there. Um, Now obviously like I guess I got the question, so they were quite happy about it. But um, I think just being very cordial and just being very relaxed. Whereas I feel like a lot of people I talk with, oh, sorry, I feel a lot of people I talk on Pram don't really
Yeah.
have that, right? Um, they're very like structured and rigid, and sometimes I remember when I was giving interviews, when I see someone like that, like yeah, you can pass the interview, but um, does that really fit? Like, do I really want to work with you?
Yeah.
But that was leading up to my prep to Google. I eventually got like basically I got like 7 out of 8 offers. So The only interview that I failed was Dropbox, and that was purely because they asked me like some concurrency stuff,
Yeah.
and they told me ahead of time that you're gonna be tested on concurrency, but
Hmm.
I was like so crunched on time that I just did not have time to like full dive into concurrency. So I watched some YouTube videos and like like
And
looked at some past questions and just tried to see if I could get that through, and I just didn't. They were just like,
and
yeah, you weren't good enough.
and yeah, I mean 7 out of 8 offers. That's pretty crazy. I don't think I've heard of.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of really anybody who's done that. Honestly, that's pretty crazy.
Um,
Did
yeah.
did Oh, I guess how'd you feel like doing that, or
I
or
mean, it
when
was
you
a
finally got
very
like all your offers or Google offer and things like that?
so I don't know if you know how Google does hiring, but they are very, very shitty at doing this type of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's the
So,
hiring team
um,
matching and all that.
yeah, like they tell you you got the offer, you pass the interview and everything, and then
Yeah,
they basically drag it on for like a month.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
had signed, I had gotten all my offers. At the
yeah.
time, I didn't really hate Amazon. So what happened was, so first, I don't know, like 7 out of 8 was kind of weird, but like for Facebook, it was kind of weird because they called me. They're like, "Hey, Steven, we can give you an E4 position," but what happened was, I don't know if you remember during the time, the stock basically plummeted. And they were just telling me that we'll keep our headcount open for E4 as soon as we get one to talk to you, but like we can't give you a position right now. Which,
Mhm.
but she did tell me that my interviews were all good and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is why like I didn't get Facebook at the time, but I could come back to that because they did give me an interview as soon as it became available. Um, Amazon I passed, Microsoft I passed, Shopify I passed. There's like Wayfair, Pinterest, and then there's Google. Um, so those are the 7 companies I got an offer at, and then Dropbox failed me. Um, yeah, and then I basically out of all those companies I signed with Amazon purely because their package was the highest at the time. And I was like, you know
Okay.
what, just the most
Yeah.
money is fine.
Wait, and
And
hold on before that because you mentioned before in Amazon, you said you didn't hate Amazon at the time, so now you do hate Amazon.
no,
Yeah. So now
it's
you don't
more
like
like
Amazon. Yeah. So what changed? What happened with Amazon?
uh, I can talk about it later when I talk about my experiences at Facebook and stuff like that. But essentially, it's just I feel like my entire mentality to work sort of took a shift when I started working at these companies. Because at
Okay.
the time, when I was applying to these companies, I sort of had in my mind where I was sort of like you were people who work at these companies are the top of the geniuses. Like, and to
Mhm.
even get in, you have to be like a genius, right?
Yeah.
And like sort of my friend told me this because he actually worked at Amazon before I did. And
Yeah.
when I told him I signed, he actually told me like, "Oh, that's not a good idea." It's that I had never I had never worked at a toxic environment before, and he said that you don't really know what it's like to work in a toxic environment unless you actually worked in one. Whereas
Yeah.
you can say that like, you know, it's fine, like I can handle it. I can handle the toxicity, but it's different when you're actually in it.
Yeah.
But then again, to each, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, we'll talk about that too
yeah,
more, I think. Because I'm interested in that. Um,
yeah.
okay,
So I was at
what?
Google for yeah.
Oh yeah, but I was curious too, like, just what would you feel about getting that offer, like, just getting all those offers?
Mm. I mean, it was definitely a very like it's a very the very like motivating like feeling.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're just constantly being reaffirmed that like all the hard work paid off and like okay, all those like hours of Leetcode, they were worth it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I got all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's funny because no matter how much you practice Leetcode, after every interview, you still think you did bad. I don't know if you ever you always have that feeling. You're just like, oh, I could have done this a little bit better. I could have
Yeah.
done that a little bit better,
Yeah.
um, but realistically, yeah,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
just have to have confidence in your skills.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah,
never
like for sure.
I very rarely have like a perfect interview. There's always like something I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, I on this or something. Or I messed up on this, yeah.
yeah. It just depends whether or not it's like the major thing or just like something small. Like okay, um, for me it was like oh maybe I could explain this a bit more or maybe I could have gone a little bit faster or I remember for my Google interview, there was like a question and I did it pretty quickly and the guy said, "Okay, we're done." And I thought, like I don't know why, but I swear to God, like we had an extra like 10 minutes, and the guy went directly to questions. And for some reason, I thought that there was going to be another follow up. He just decided not to give it to me,
Mm-hmm.
but like that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, oh no, this like because I knew there was like another question similar to on Leetcode. It's not the exact same questions because Google doesn't give the exact same questions, but it was like a one-up question you could have asked to that, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
was expecting it to come, but um, and I was like, oh, because we only had like 10-ish something minutes, maybe he just didn't want to give it to me. But I guess he just doesn't give it to people. um, but yeah, definitely getting all the offers. It was a very, very like yeah, a very good feeling, straight up. Like I was basically elated. I remember like calling my family and stuff like that, being like, "Yo, I got Google," and my dad was like super happy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, it's so weird because like, and I remember um, like when you would because Google was at one point like when I was in university, like a dream of mine to work at. I really like I always wanted to work there. Like my head was like, okay, we get into FAANG, and then if we are lucky enough, we get into Google. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you are the top of the top of Google, it was always sort of seen like that.
Yeah.
And to get just like an offer like that, I was like, holy shit. I literally told myself like I don't care how much money they offer me, I'm gonna accept this offer. And they and yeah, they
Yeah.
did not offer me more than Amazon because Amazon gave quite a big package back then.
Yeah.
Um, and then like I remember I gave Google I remember went back and forth 3 times with Google to be like, hey, could you like update the package a little bit? Could you give me a little more stock, a little more of this? And we went back and forth a lot. And then after that, we sort of settled on a deal. And I called Amazon like a day before I was supposed to start because I had signed with Amazon, but I didn't actually start yet. And I actually
Mm-hmm.
had meetings with like my manager and stuff like that. And I don't know, they seem like nice people, I guess. But I just really did not want to um like if you give me the chance to work at Google or Amazon, it was 100% going to be Google every single time, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
yeah, so,
Yeah. No, and that makes I mean like it like one reason I'm I was kind of curious about that because like one for like I think for most people like they're gonna be like super happy, but like having 7 offers right you have like just a lot of I mean that's like to an extreme right like I knew people at my college right who had like their Google offers or whatever and right like I'm with my roommates too like it was like super happy like we were like hey like you got
yeah,
in um but I knew people too who worked there and then they tried like switching like they tried like interviewing other places and they failed all of them and they were like okay well guess I gotta like just go into like my Google or not Google, Facebook, whatever
yeah.
offer. Yeah. Um yeah.
I've
But
I know one of my friends who works at Google,
mhm,
and she can't leave Google because she just doesn't want to brush up on Leetcode, and she's
yeah.
been there for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So, like it definitely, I can tell you this right now. If you re-give all the Googlers their interview, like more than half of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be like way more than half of them, yeah. You get the
Yeah.
people like yeah, like my own manager and stuff like that who are really good at lead code, but um, most of them they got in and then they just sort of stayed there.
Yeah. Did did for like the or I'm trying to like think about like what I was gonna ask because I'm also losing my train of thought. Oh yeah, so how do you think interviews have changed from like the past, right? So like, from there getting 7 interviews and then to like now. Do you think it's harder? Because and obviously too, this is actually a hard question for you to ask because you're actually more in like a senior position. So the interviews are going to be harder
Yeah,
because you're as a senior. But yeah, I guess just
I
what are your thoughts on
yeah,
that?
I will say this though, like I understand a lot of people are having problems with interviews and stuff like that. Like a lot of new grad and stuff like that for her. Like I agree, that's like the market's not the best right now, and when you get to senior, um, the interviews become more about system design, which I can definitely understand why. But having interviewed at both for the senior position at like Facebook and like a few other companies, I don't really think the bar is like that much. different. I think they just want you to be really good at system design, but I don't think I was ever all that bad at system design that I was like failing some of these interviews. Although
Yeah.
I did fail like one system design from Confluent, but those
Yeah.
guys, those guys wanted something extreme. I was like, damn,
Yeah.
those guys were kind of crazy. They
Yeah.
wanted me to deep dive into like a data. I'm like, damn, okay. Um, but yeah, I probably would need to do a few more senior interviews to see what the actual difference is.
Mm-hmm.
But um, I wouldn't say the leak coding got any easier or harder. I feel like the leak coding was sort of like at a steady, it was like a steady level throughout the entire interview process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people like to say that, like, when you're earlier, they ask you harder leak code questions. When you go into later, they ask you easier leak code questions. I don't even think that's not true. Generally, at most companies, they just have one question bank, and you don't even know what, like, you know what level you're interviewing for, but like you just pick a question from the question bank and you just give it to them, right?
Okay. Okay. Cool.
That's generally how that.
Cool. 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 Okay. Next thing I'm interested in is I guess your time at Google, your time at Meta.
Yep.
With
So
honestly, I mean, we don't even have to go like super deep into Google, but yeah, we don't have to go super deep into Google. Like, we could just talk about what do you think the differences are? What are the differences between like your time at Google and your time at like Meta?
okay. I think for the main two differences between two companies are just like it's like the attitude of the people, right? I feel like at Google, when my old manager was like talking to me, he really cared about like how I was thinking, like my work-life balance and stuff like that. He was like,
Yeah.
okay, and he was like, "Hey, Steven, like, don't work too hard, like stuff like that." It was quite strange. Even my old manager that like other companies before never asked me this, but he was
Okay.
just like, "Yeah, like we really try to care for you." And then they basically always sat and ate lunch together, and we try. Basically, the manager tried to make it like my old companies, where everyone tried to be friendly with each other.
Okay.
And
That kind of reminds me too.
one of the commute was
I talked to Simon too, like on another video, and he said like his manager was like, "Oh, you're new, like you can go up to speed or whatever." And so that's what Simon did. Like he just like completely chilled and was like slacking on his work. Like not, I mean, not slacking, right? But he just was not performing. And then he was like almost on PIP basically, and his manager was like, "Yeah, like uh, like
yeah,
you're chilling a little too much or whatever." Essentially.
yeah, yeah. I never got that from my manager.
Yeah.
He was just like, it was I don't know. Like I was also very motivated when I first started working at Google. It was so I remember I like how I was like working after late nights just because not even because of like the work, just because like oh I wanted to prove myself and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? But you didn't really have much to prove, at the at the beginning of anything. You're just sort of ramping up,
Okay.
and I was there for about yeah. So yeah, and I feel like at Facebook it was very different. Whereas at Facebook, and like if like the manager instantly started expecting stuff out of you, they sort of expected you to be working like basically they don't care how many hours you work, but you just have to get the stuff done. But they give you like three projects at once,
Okay.
so it becomes like they don't tell you to work late, but it becomes very overbearing that if you don't work late, people will start asking questions. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And yeah, so that's what it felt like. I remember at Facebook, I never felt my entire tenure there, which is only 7 months, I never felt safe there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I was like, okay, I was working. I was like, okay, I'm like every day I was working there. I was like, okay, um, are they gonna are they gonna like pip me or something like that? But never. My manager like told me like we don't pip on the first year. You don't have to worry about that. But then like they started basically comparing me to other engineers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, it was a very negative attitude throughout the entire time,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Like growing up, I just really didn't want to put up with that anymore. So that was like a huge thing, and also it seemed like at Google people actually respected your time. Whereas after like 6 p.m., no one really works. People sort like even though there's GCP and a lot of people talk about how GCP works like crazy, um, I know all my coworkers went home. And the on-call was actually pretty cool too because how it worked was like we basically had on-call till 12 midnight, and then we basically just shifted to Switzerland, and we have like a sister team there, and they took care of on-call until 6.
Nice.
So it wasn't even that hard. Yeah. So, but at Facebook, it was like you are on call for the midnight to like 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. You basically had to deal with that. Um, I think that just like instantly shows you the difference between the two companies, right?
Yeah.
Um, Whereas I felt like Google actually cared for their engineers, whereas Facebook is more just like results oriented. That's not saying that like one company is better than the other. It's really just about like what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that Google has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years.
Hmm.
Not 100% sure.
Okay.
Um,
And so, what are your like overall thoughts with FAANG? Like, so you worked at the small company, kind of, right? You worked at UKG or UHG, the HR software, I think.
UKG, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
UKG. And so like what I'm wondering is, yeah, like what's your, yeah, do you like FAANG or do you prefer FAANG like right now? I know you said on
So
stream also that like you're kind of in this point where you're thinking like I don't even care about any of this stuff. But yeah,
uh, it's the burnout is like burnout's really bad, but um I just don't really so before I worked at FAANG, I always thought working at FAANG was like a dream job.
yeah,
It's not even about I always thought like the people would be nice to you. Like it's not even about and the work would be fun and interesting and
yeah,
everything like that. It wasn't even about hours and stuff like that, right?
mm-hmm,
I thought it was like prestigious. And um I feel like once you actually work there, you realize it becomes any other job. And one of them, I don't know, like one of my friends told me this, right? It was like not one of my friends. I just saw in a YouTube video where the guy says, "No, there's a reason why they pay you the big bucks, because like one, yeah, sure, it might be a little bit competitive, but also there's very high expectations on you. If a
mm-hmm,
company is paying you like multi-$100,000 salaries,
mm-hmm,
they want something out of you. They want you to make the return on those investments, right?
yeah,
So while a lot of people are like, yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to go in, and like, just keep that in mind, right? So like, you're gonna be working a lot,
yeah,
um, which you know what, maybe yeah, which is fine depending on the company, depending on what you're working on and your passion and stuff like that. But I think what really drove home to me was, I sort of realized working at these big tech companies really only, at least at Facebook anyways, really only one type of person sort of survives, man. Um, the people who are very competitive. You know what I mean? It's the people who make everything in life a competition.
mm-hmm,
Like and I understand competition can help you with your personal growth and stuff like that.
mm-hmm,
And like don't get me wrong, but like how like for me it sort of turned into like okay, so I spent my entire life competing with others to try and at least have some sort of peace of mind at the end of it. And it sort of like it broke to me that like now I have to constantly compete every day at my work job for 40 years. I just don't know if I could do that.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is a competition.
yeah,
It's just like you're competing against your team and everything like that. You're competing against other orgs, and seeing that, right, it sort of makes me look back at my previous experiences, being like, you know what? While I wasn't exactly satisfied with the work and all this stuff, it's sort of I will agree that there is a very big value in the fact that my old companies let me actually have a life after work. My old company that was actually able to make friends. It wasn't like we were trying to go at each other's throats all the time, like throwing each other under the bus.
yeah,
And like that, like no, growing up, I never really valued stuff like that. I was sort of just like, who made more money? Where do you work? And the prestige and stuff like that. But going forward, um, I don't think I ever want to work in an environment like that ever again. And now be it It could be like another big tech company because I know some other big like it's not like FAANG, but it could be other big tech company that has like a more calm, like
Yeah.
work environment,
Yeah,
maybe
like
like
Tesla.
off and stuff like that.
I'm kidding.
Tesla's not. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tesla's like far away, right? Um, but definitely be something like very just want to actually be able to enjoy my life outside
Yeah.
of work, right?
Yeah.
I think everyone who works at Facebook sort of lives to work as opposed to work to live.
Yeah.
And you might make the argument that like not everyone at Facebook is that, but I can tell you a majority of people are like that.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
because I
So,
think
well, also too, you mentioned one thing. You said like, before they were making you like, it's one, it's just more competitive, and then two, like, uh, you're kind of forced to stay after work. That happened at Google.
Google not really, no.
Okay.
No one really forced me to stay after work at all. It
Or
was
where like
only
you feel
at
obligated to
Facebook.
basically stay after work. Like you think it's like a requirement, or like I guess my interpretation was that at Google and Facebook, you have to work more hours, and you because they want more out of you, and you're going to be staying later, like as opposed to like a chill job essentially.
Yeah. So at Google, no one was really forcing me to stay after work, although I was sort of doing it just because I wanted to.
Hmm.
At Facebook, it was a different story because if you weren't staying after hours, everyone else was,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So like, sort of had that feeling where like no one's forcing you, but like,
Yeah, it's like a part of the
why your
culture.
tech lead? Yeah,
Yeah.
your tech lead is still there at 8 p.m. Your tech lead is still there at 9, or like
Yeah.
your co E5 is there at like 9 o'clock as well. Like, why aren't you here, right?
Yeah.
And and then every one on one, basically every one on one, and they call like yeah, they basically just compare you to the entire team.
Yeah.
They'd be like, hey, Steven, you're yeah, they align you to like where you are on the stack and stuff like that, and then they talk about it. And if you're not putting in those hours, you can imagine how it is, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. So I'm trying to think of like just like stuff. Because at Easy Post too, it was like pretty annoying. Like it was chill, like while I was there for the most part, but they were just like random, just weird stuff just happening. Um,
but
like
the
yeah, and I
difference
guess when I say
between
that,
just
and when I say that, like I mean like for example, like it was like my first like maybe 4 months there or whatever, and we have like an on-site, and I'm in like the car with like my manager, my coworker who's on my team, and then like some other guy who's he's adjacent or whatever. Um, and then like my teammate is just like drunk in the car like after like the event that we had, and he's arguing with my manager about how like he's making him stay like and work extra like on the weekends or something. Like he's getting like phone calls from the manager, and he's like why are you doing this? Like basically just drunk rambling basically about that. That's what I mean, like a weird thing. And but there's like stuff like that, and there's like a couple of other things too where I was just like, okay, this is like way too much, and I'm just gonna leave. Um, and I mean, it's essentially what I did. Like, I mean, that's directly why I guess I don't have a job right now. But what uh, I'm trying to like think about, because what you had said, kind of like I thought was interesting, right? So like maybe about like the comparison.
yeah,
What? Yeah, I guess what like as an example, like they were just saying like, hey, like you're here, and like this person is here based off of like the metrics of progress, I guess, on their
yeah,
thing. Okay.
yeah. So they have like your E5 expectations, and they have your like E4 expectations, stuff like that, and they sort of like put you in line with that. Sort of they call it calibrations,
Okay.
but yeah. And if it's like every year is quite stressful.
Okay.
Sort of put you in line with like, okay, here's this, here's this, here's this, and um, yeah, it is what it is.
Okay. Okay. And I kind of liked what you said too about like the competition. You said because this is kind of something I've been thinking about. Not I mean at the workplace I haven't really felt that like competition at the workplace, but one thing I thought was that like interviews like are a lot more competitive, I think, than or it feels more competitive than me like making like a YouTube video, for example, where Like for example, like getting a job in tech right now feels like it feels like you're kind
Mhm.
of like in middle school or whatever, and you've got like basically like kind of like the tryouts for the basketball team or whatever. And so like
Yeah.
basically you know you're competing with other people, and like your performance on those tryouts is going to depend on like whether you get the job and you're signed onto the team, or like they'll show you up like tomorrow morning or whatever, and they'll say, hey, if your name's not on the list, you're not on the team. But essentially like your performance is very correlated with whether you're a starter, with whether you're on varsity or JV. And it's
Yeah.
going back to interviews, it's the same thing where like you're going to talk to an interviewer, they're going to be nice to you, everyone's going to be nice or whatever, but like you are being graded on like some certain criteria, your leak code, your performance, and that's going to
Yeah.
see whether you're on the list essentially. You know.
Um, yeah, I agree 100%. And I can't really say much about the standard of like maybe the questions got a lot harder or maybe the questions got a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um, either way, I realistically don't think that they can ask you such a hard question that the average person can't get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think the app like for me, I think the average person, if you just put enough work,
Yeah.
can probably I don't know, get like 2200 on Leetcode if you just put enough work, right?
Yeah.
2200 rating on Leetcode.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
because realistically, a lot of yeah,
that's my thoughts too.
yeah. And I really don't think there's much to it besides just doing more Leetcode questions. And the thing, the thing is, right? So I've been thinking about this a lot. Is I don't know if you, I guess we can go to your next question if you want actually.
No, what's up? I mean,
Sure.
what's
So I
up?
think you mentioned about like the programming interview. I think you were asking me about the state of the interview and stuff like that. And I feel like what's happening now is that all these companies are so focusing on leak code questions that what it does is it actually like freaking knows like it does the actual engineering part of it, right? When was the last time you had to like re up an API and figure out how to build something with leak code, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like everything like realistically, what leak code really is for these big tech companies is just an IQ test to see if you can pass. And I think the last few interviews I failed, none of them were leak code questions. It was all just like build me an application or like build me a REST API. And I felt
Yeah.
like prior to all of this prep, like I was much better at that. And I feel like having worked at big tech and not doing that for a very long time, I definitely feel very weak at some of that stuff now.
Yeah.
And it's definitely feels bad. Um, but like I can't really say it's just um while a lot of people say getting into big tech or like getting a job at big tech companies are hard.
Hmm.
Um, I honestly believe they are one of the easier interviews, right? Because like realistically, right? Here's my thought to this is for big tech companies, you are asked a type of question you know how to prepare for, right?
Yeah.
You know exactly where you're going to get, you know all your rounds, day in and day night for like decode, right?
Yeah.
You have no idea what like the startup is going to ask you. They might ask you some trivia about some some technology that you've never heard of,
Yeah.
right? Or they might ask you to build something that you've never done before.
Yeah.
Um, there's realistically no way of prepping that. And and I feel like going into those type of interviews, I'm way more nervous than going into a technical interview.
Yeah. I mean I would agree, like I think I mostly agree, right? Like I like leak code, you mentioned like IQ test, but like it's basically just like what to prepare for, like are you gonna prepare for it? And like most people just don't prepare, and then so they're like then it's hard. And that yeah, I mean I obviously too, or at least I've noticed too, that it's harder for me to do like more of these projects, which is why like I tried building like this chess game essentially like a couple of days ago,
Yeah,
but because so I could practice. And I was like realizing, oh shoot, I completely forgot this lesson that I learned like 3 years ago, which was that you write a function and then you test the function. Like, why would you just write five
yeah,
functions and then not test them, and then you try running the code and then none of it works? Yeah. So I've definitely gotten weaker, but like it's just reminding myself of those lessons again. Yeah,
Yeah. I just I really don't understand why the entire industry sort of shifted the way it did.
yeah.
But I've
Well, also
always been sort of
before,
like with, with the
before,
wave instead of against the wave. So instead of like fighting against it and like not interviewing at these places, I'm just like if they expect me to know these, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna get really good at it, you know?
yeah. Oh, and also before, like it was like brain teasers at Google. Like they were asking you if you drop
Yeah.
if you drop an egg off like an elevator or whatever, or like how many like windows are in New York City or something. Yeah. Uh. Okay.
Those were and those yeah. Oh cool. I got rated. Sorry. The soul dude rated me. Hey, what's up?
Nice. Nice.
Uh yeah.
Okay. So
Um
yeah. So another thing. Oh, but shoot, I because we were talking about like so many different things. I've got like a lot of stuff in my head. One thing that I wanted to talk about too was that I was just curious about is that you said like we would like disagree on something, or essentially you said that like I was more like optimistic essentially compared to you or something.
about
But I was curious about talking about that, and then but I was also like also curious about the leak code stuff, leak code interviews. But yeah, I don't
optim
yeah I don't remember what you said. It was like my general I guess like the when you had said it, my impression was that like we had different mindsets, or like we would disagree on something essentially, like if we were like talking like if we were gonna do like this interview, like there was like something that we were gonna disagree on, and I think it was gonna be like
Oh no, no, I just said that I want you can cut this out if you want. Um I just said that when I give this interview, I try not to be as negative
yeah,
because there's a lot of negatives I could say about some past employers and stuff like that.
yeah,
But I
okay,
try to be as possible. That's what I meant to say.
okay, um
It's not
yeah, okay. mm, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think because one thing yeah, I don't know, I'm just curious about like the but whatever, okay, because I feel like there was something, but I can't actually like I can't think of any like actual concrete thing. So, anyways, we'll go to the next one, which is that thing is the I guess where do you plan on going now? What are your thoughts? I guess like I maybe like kind of asked something similar to this, but like where so you know you've done Google, you've done Meta, right? I feel like you're kind of at this point where I mean you could really do anything you want.
yeah.
Again, because I feel like again like you know I think it's like a very good title where you know it's only like we're 0.01% or whatever 0.1% of people or 1% or whatever software engineers do that. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I
I
get
guess yeah.
that.
I don't know. Do you have a sense of like what's your next?
It's actually kind of funny, right? Because I've actually sent my interview in, my resume in into like a few smaller size companies,
Yeah,
and I know like basically like long story short was they called me and the recruiter was just like, hey, we can't match your offer from Facebook or Google, like depending on what time I was interviewing at. Like, are you okay with that? Like, can you give me a salary range? And I
wait,
basically gave him a salary
wait,
range.
she actually said that? The recruiter said we
Yeah,
cannot
yeah, straight,
match what you made at
yeah,
Google and Meta. That's crazy. Okay.
yeah, straight up, straight up. This was like, I always make a meme because like I basically aced all my interviews, but I failed IBM 4 times because they wouldn't give me an interview. Every time they call me, I tried interviewing them after I left Google, and then I tried interviewing them like after I left Meta, and then
Yeah.
I interviewed them as I was trying to get into Google, but then they just never called me back. It was quite strange. Yeah, they I just gave them a pretty lowball offer for myself too, and then they were like, we can't match that. I'm sorry, because I think they like in Canada they pay like less than 100K a year for a senior position.
Okay.
So keep in mind that like while having having those big tech companies in your resume is like a good thing. It doesn't give you doors to like every single company. And I've heard from like old managers in the past where it's like sometimes you just can't afford some of the really expensive people and you're okay with that, right?
Okay. Okay.
So it's sort of just like mentality thing. As where I plan to go, this is like something I've been thinking about for a while. It's sort of like growing up, there was always like some sort of goal where like with one of these companies, right? It was sort of like, once you get to this point,
Yeah. Wait, and also
you
that's interesting. So when you were in
yeah,
middle school, like when you were in middle school, elementary school, like you knew you wanted to be like a programmer, like working for one of those
oh,
companies.
no, it was like university sort of. Middle school, Facebook wasn't even out yet.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it was basically like it was like in university or like in end of high school. I was like, okay, these are the top companies you want to go to, and I'll try my best to get into it.
Okay.
And it wasn't like in middle school. I didn't. I was sort of like middle school. Everyone's fed this lie of being like, if you get the most prestigious job, you get the biggest house, you get like all the best things in the world. Like your
Yeah.
life is just gonna be and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I feel like as you progress through life, you never get that, right?
Mhm.
Uh, it's sort of like um, you have to understand that all these materialistic things sort of all comes at a price, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I don't know. For me, it's hard to understand where I want to go next. But most likely, I probably will go back to like a easier level tech job. But
Okay.
there's no guarantee that I could be appreciative of like what I of that because I there was like in the past I wasn't really like appreciative of that because I was like working low numbers of hours and then still getting like pat on the back being like, oh, you did good, Steven. Like I really don't like that. I kind of like the thing is like I don't mind the hustle culture. It's just I mind that the people I work with are good people. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I think there's a very big difference of you spending like next like 80 hours on a week and then having your manager come up to you and be like, "Hey, Steven, like good job. Um, like I appreciate you staying late this week," as opposed to, "Hey, Steven, we still have like two other projects due," right?
Yeah.
It sort of makes you feel like everything is like for naught, and I think that's like the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I do plan to start interviewing soon, cause like right now I'm sort of like living a retired life, and um,
Yeah.
life is kind of boring without a
Yeah.
9 to 5.
Yeah.
But it does
That's
get very intense.
yeah. I mean, that's
It's
what I've been
like
doing. Yeah, that's what I've been doing for like a year. I'm basically kind of retired where I'm just not working. I mean, I'm somewhat working, but yeah.
uh,
That's it. I
like
don't feel bored. I feel like I have like a ton of stuff. But one thing actually you kind of mentioned was that that you are bored, yeah. So I remember you said that on stream. Okay. One thing
it's
too, what would you recommend for college students who are just starting? They maybe like they just started like as a freshman or something, and they just
mhm.
signed up for the CS class. They are ready, and yeah. Well, what advice would you give them?
Like go into arts. No, I'm kidding. No, no, okay. So realistically, right? I know there's a lot of upheaval on like the whole CS degree, like people not finding jobs and stuff like that. And I can't be an expert to be like, okay, uh, like, the industry is going to collapse in a few years because of AI and stuff like that. Like, I really don't know.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, it's when I studied CS, it wasn't for the money. It was because I really like to build games, and it
Okay.
sort of turned into that later on. But I realistically believe that like it sounds very millennial-y, but like don't I don't know, like don't go into CS just thinking about the money, right? Because yeah, they will pay you a lot, but that's all you're gonna do. You're gonna hate your entire life working there. And but if you just sign up for your first CS classes, I wouldn't. I would say like don't worry about it. Like the industry it's going to recover by the time they graduate. And even if it doesn't, a lot of people whenever they like get really pissed off, like in so like the job opportunity are bad, um, like a lot of them sort of also don't give like very small companies a try. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
like Google is not like all of them are trying to apply to like the big end companies, right?
Yeah.
And like none of them are trying to apply to the company that pays you like 50K a year.
Hmm.
And just like, well, why don't you give that company a try? Like, sure, they give you a lower salary, but like that could be a good stepping stone. Um, and then from there you can have like really good. I always tell people like after 2 or 3 years, the big tech companies knocking at your door. Not 2 or 3 years, maybe like 3 or 4 years. Like I never had to send out a single resume back in 2022. But although it was a different market back then, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But it was like yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it was like all of them came to me,
Yep.
which felt good, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, and, like I agree with that, right? Like I guess there's several things. Like one is kind of like the prestige, and
yeah,
I mean, I think might be just it's probably impossible to like unless you're almost impossible really to tell somebody like, oh, the prestige doesn't matter or something. And in a sense too, like I mean, you could work at a startup for like 10 years. If you have the 10 years experience, I'm pretty sure Google, Amazon, or whatever, they're gonna say like, hey, like come work for us or whatever. So
yeah.
one, I think people don't have like that long time horizon, but then two, it's like, yeah, there's like a deeper question. Is just like, okay, like what's the point of like making like a ton of money, um, and like essentially like at what point is just like is the money like enough? Like what point are you just gonna say, okay, I'm kind of content and I have like the money that I want? But yeah, I think that it's kind of unfortunate though because it's something that like you can say that, but like people will just be like, oh, you're just rich. Yeah.
I can tell you, I'm not rich, but it, it definitely takes a little bit of privilege to be like, okay, I just don't want to work for half a year. I'm not gonna lie, because you need to have some sort of savings,
Yeah.
steady, like saved up.
Yeah.
But um, I just don't think that humans like if like I've always basically I don't know if humans are supposed to be working 60 to 50 hours a week every every week for 40 years just so
Yeah.
they can just so they can enjoy the last 10 years, right? And I think I
Yeah.
mentioned this before. It feels it has a very like, harrowing feeling of that where like if that's really the case that becomes very depressing, you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
half of your life is going to be put into work,
Yeah.
and if you don't enjoy your work,
You're just
that's
wasted.
gonna be
Yeah.
torture.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think there's probably or I don't know if you've heard of Harari, Yuval Harari. He wrote Homo Sapiens. He's a super smart guy. He's a super smart guy.
Oh yeah,
He
almost.
Homo Sapiens.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
I think. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
heard the book.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyways, he wrote this
Yeah.
book, and one thing I thought, bro, this that book has like banger after banger. 10 out of 10 would recommend. It is a super hard book though, but he summarizes like the history of the entire world. But the really cool thing is that, or at least one of the things that I thought was like super cool was that he was saying like, yo, like it was actually kind of based like living as like a hunter gatherer because what you would do is you would like survive like like hunt for food essentially from like killing animals or whatever, and then and that would be like maybe 4 hours or something, and then after that you would look for berries or whatever, and then that's it, you're just chilling. Actually, like you're not working 40-hour work weeks where you're increasing shareholders values. um
Yeah.
and but then things got really bad when then we got into like cattle, basically like we could farm animals, and so like now we had farmers and people were doing like subsistence farming, so like your average day-to-day worker was just sitting on a farm all day like trying to plow fields, and then the kings were like living in their castle. But then like now we're here where life is like better than being a farmer, but anyways, all this say
Yeah.
hunter gatherer sounds, yeah, it sounds kind of based, honestly. Yeah.
I'm sure there are other issues with hunter gathering during that time, but
Yeah.
I'm sure like if you
Yeah, I
can't
don't.
find food, you're just but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
But
I don't. Yeah, I
I
don't
would
know. I can hunt
I
some
would just
berries.
say like
I can find some berries.
Yeah, I would just say like a lot of people talk about prestige about the work and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know, I used to basically use work as my identity. Like I used to be like I don't say it out loud, but I used to just walk around being like, you know, I'm the big tech worker that also, you know, I don't know, just like I'm a big tech worker. That was it.
yeah,
That was like I work at Google. That was
yeah,
who I was. I literally like, you know, and that was like part of my confidence, right? So whenever I walked around, and I talk to people, and whenever like something makes you feel insecure, it could be like, at least I work at this company, which is very
yeah.
shallow. Like,
I mean, everybody, it
but it's
happens to
sort of
everyone
like
for sure.
everybody has their own source of confidence, right? Um, so having lost that, it sort of makes me have to reevaluate a lot of things in life, and I just feel like, you know, like I like now having looked at the entire big tech, my entire big tech journey in the
Hmm.
2 years or so, I just it's just like it does not like looking at it like from a clear lens. It just doesn't. It wasn't like that. It wasn't what I was expecting. Is all basically right.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Like
That makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I honestly, I don't even know if I really have any other questions. The big thing I kind of wanted to do was, or that I was hoping to do is, one, obviously getting your advice on interviews, right? So again, you got like seven, what you had like seven offers out of like the eight, and at that time
yeah,
period, you worked at Google, worked at Meta, so you have like advice on that. And then the second thing too is you kind of have like the dark side of working in like big tech that it feels like nobody's really talking
yeah.
about.
Nobody.
Yeah, so I thought both those were
I
cool.
feel like I don't know why talks about this, but I feel like big tech sort of has like a marketing scheme towards like universities. I don't know. It's just like maybe like a conspiracy theory, but I feel like they really just like got into people's brain that these are the places you really want to work. You know, with the free food and stuff like that and the big
Yeah.
campuses. At least for like Meta, Facebook, and maybe Amazon. And I just really don't know if I really don't know if like if you were to actually tell people what these places actually are, and if
Hmm.
you were to like basically let's put it this way, right? If you were to give everyone like the same like basically give every job the same salary and tell them to choose where they want to work, I can tell you very little people would choose to like basically stand what Facebook or Amazon does to you, right?
Okay.
People are only doing it out of a monetary value.
Yeah.
They think that to do it like that, like they can survive for a few years, but like so it feels really sad that a lot of people are working at these companies just for the money
Hmm.
and like yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that's what I want to do.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think I would agree. Like, which is kind of surprising too. Like, I probably would be in the same boat, honestly. Like, if I did have work there, I'd probably just say like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, I feel like honestly, like throughout my entire career, the max I've worked is like 4 hours, like a day. There's some periods where it's
Yeah,
like more, but like on average, it's just like 4 hours a day. Like, I was really chilling at City and at Easy Post too. So I can't imagine. I feel like cranking out like actually a full 8 hours that would be very exhausting. But
it's
yeah, but and that's what too. Like conversely too. Like right now, I'm working like way harder. So like basically, I don't know. Maybe I might be working like 10 hours a day, like just doing like YouTube or like Leetcode stuff, or essentially right, like essentially work. Um, but I love it. So like I can actually do this like I feel like I can do this like sustainably, like just keep doing it every single day. But uh yeah. Anyway, I like it a lot more. I guess that's all to say that. But
yeah. I
yeah,
think it's like a different take. It's just I really don't like the fact that the world judges you so much by about your job and your appearance and stuff like that. It just feels so shallow, right?
yeah,
Like if you don't have a job, if you work at a really good job, people instantly have a good, like opinion of you,
yeah.
which
It's just
I
like
feel like that should
status.
not.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I mean I think it'll continue. It's just always been in our society. Like it's just a human thing right? Just we have people who are higher and lower than other people, and we have like stereotypes, right, that we use to judge people to like put them into buckets and things like that. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah, it's just
agree.
like evolutionary.
Yeah, I just like I really wanna know, like, if you put everybody through like a year at like 2 years at Amazon, or like a year at Amazon and a year at Facebook, how many people actually enjoy what they're doing?
Yeah, yeah. I would
Like I
guess. Yeah, I would guess no. Like I would guess it's mostly status and money. That'd be my guess. I feel like even as like a society, like I think it's just yeah, I don't yeah, as a society, yeah, we're going into more societal stuff, but anyways, my whole thing is like I think yeah, the TikTok, I think TikTok's like bad. Like I think social media, like I think the idea of like just constantly doom scrolling or constantly like blocking out your mind essentially with just like having like some kind of media, some kind of advertisement, some kind of snack, like basically giving into all of that. I think that's like probably just bad like for your mental health. And I yeah,
Yeah,
I think people would be a lot happier with yeah, not to mention depression, anxiety. Again, I think it's just constantly rising because of those things. Yeah, but
yeah, I agree. It's just you can't really change the world, you
yeah,
know. It's
yeah,
like you can not you can choose not to judge others based on their jobs, but your next employer isn't going to do that, right?
yeah,
Which is so depressing.
yeah. Okay.
It is what it.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I have anything else unless you wanted to just like uh, I mean, unless you wanted to like argue about something, but
No,
I
there's
don't think I
nothing
have
to
any.
argue about. Yeah, I think we're on the same page for a lot of stuff. But yeah, I hope I wasn't too depressing.
No, I mean, well, I again,
I
I
tried
felt it.
tried
I
to you're gonna put my face onto this, right?
I have my face on. Yeah,
You're gonna put my face onto the video, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So try to cut out any like really sad stuff.
I
I don't
mean,
want I don't want I don't want ex coworkers to see and then be like, "Hey, Steven, this you?" And
okay,
then I say sketchy, right? Or
okay.
something like that. And then it
Um,
gets like
okay. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm trying to think about what we talk about, but yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. And because for me, like this was like this is normal. I think like at least from my yeah,
yeah.
like I didn't but again, it's hard maybe hard for me to judge depressing because I don't know. But yeah, I'll hyper fixate on. I'll be a lot more sensitive
Sure.
towards yeah
Just try
saying
not. I
something
don't want to
negative.
make it sound like yeah. I just try not to make it sound like I was attacking Facebook or Google or anything like that. I just wanted to make it come off of like sort of a professional sort of thing. But
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, I think I'll be fine either way. Yeah.
All right.
I
Okay.
just don't want calls to be like "Hey, Steven with like
Okay.
it's like yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah. If that's everything then thanks.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Steven. And like I said, I like the conversation, and I think your backstory is very interesting too. Right. Again, like I don't know if anybody's like the thing that's I hate is that like I don't think anybody's even gonna like pay that much attention. Like there's probably like a couple of people, maybe like one person, but that would be cool.
Yeah,
But like I think most people probably just be like, oh yeah, okay, cool. But I would
I
hope
think
people kind of listen and try to think about the stuff you've said. But and I think it'll be
like I don't
helpful.
know people. Like if you told me if I watched this exact video or like I can this entire exact interview
Yeah,
like before I went on
yeah.
Google, I'd be like, you can't tell me these things. Like if I'm gonna hate these companies, I'm gonna have to like work there and hate it myself,
Yeah,
which I understand,
yeah.
right? Like it's something you're instilled with when you're like a tiny little kid,
Yeah.
so it's hard to just be like,
Oh
but
wait. Also, one thing I'm kind of interested, but I'm guessing it's like so with I'm guessing you don't want to, but like you mentioned like doing like video games and stuff like that. Like, do you have any plans of like doing anything like that, or are you planning on like doing like any streaming? As you do stream, but like, are you
so
planning on doing like content creation more, or doing like your
not.
own startup, I guess, or indie game? I don't know.
The thing is, like after working for all these years, which is only 6, um, I actually have no. I feel like my creative drive to work in the tech industry sort of like is burnt out. At least right now, anyways. While I could build a game, um, it's really weird, right? Like when you had a job your entire life, and you sort of take a break from it. So if I feel like I'm building a game, it sort of feels like I'm going in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause to me right now, deep down, I still know that I need to get prepped for interviews and get ready to get a new job soon. Because
Okay.
that's what I've always done. So if I start building a game, I'd be like, you're just wasting your time building a game. Like, why
Okay.
aren't you just prepping more? And
Well,
which is a very toxic way of thinking, and I'm trying to like fix that. But that's like
and
one of the
is
main reasons why. You know what
and
I
is that
mean?
just for
Yeah.
money? Is that like you? So you said you need a like you feel
I
like you need a
I
job.
think
Like
it's
you
more,
feel like you need it for money, or
it's not about money. I think it's more about like stability. I think for the longest time, it's like I mentioned, like I've gotten to a point in my life where like if I don't have a job, like I'm waking up at like 11 o'clock every day, and that's not great. And there's nothing to do in the mornings and stuff like that, and it
yeah,
just feels like um for me, if I just don't have that thing there, it feels like something is missing in life. You know what I mean? Which is very sad, and like and I probably should try to replace that with other stuff, but
hmm,
I'm a very routine person, you know? Like I need to do the same routine, stuff like that. So when I start breaking these routines, it feels very uncomfortable for me. And
okay,
like I tried to like look for a job these last couple of months, but like there's like always like an inner voice being like, kind of beat yourself up about it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, like one thing I think
Yeah.
is really good, right? I think it's good that you kind of realize that. Like, I think that's like probably, I mean, that's one of like the first steps, and it's also like a pretty huge one too. Again, you'll have people who they go a lot of time basically just
Yeah.
having no self awareness or no idea that it's even happening. Yeah. Okay.
Like, yeah. For all the I have like a lot of negative self talk. um but it's just I don't know, it's hard, like I don't know, yeah, so like it's just finding another job, and like if I invest my time into building another game, I just feel like it's gonna take like a month or two to build out the game, and then like who knows what's gonna happen. It's very unknown, right? Whereas I know exactly what's going to happen if I prep for interview, then maybe start applying. While
Yeah.
I might not know the company I work at, I know that if they give me an interview, I have a good chance of passing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. That's I get into like because you and I were kind of like in like the same thing, right? Because we're like I'm unemployed too. Like I'm not full time. I'm like slowly
Yeah.
like draining my savings or whatever. Like one thought I've had is like, oh, well, let me just interview. Let me stop doing like all. Let me focus. Literally, just focus. Just apply to a ton of jobs. Let me just get a new job, get the
Yeah.
stability, get the paycheck, and then go back to like the old life essentially. Like one thing I think about is like the old life where like you have the status, right? Like when somebody says like, oh, where do you work, right? You say like, oh yeah, I work at like for me, I guess it was like Citibank, which is I don't know. You say software
Yeah.
engineer, people okay. If you say you're a software engineer too, like people are just like, oh, you must make a lot of money. That's like the number one thing I think that you'll probably hear. But yeah, but basically going back to that life, like that's like I get like thoughts of that. But I think what I'm gonna end up doing is like I'm making like at least the thing I'm thinking about is just I'm just gonna dive into like this entrepreneurship thing, and I guess I'll
Yeah.
probably talk to you later, and I guess we'll see how that goes. But I'll be continue being a broke boy. Um,
But, like, does it not scare you? On you have no idea how
yeah.
that will succeed or move on forward. That's like a
Um,
very scary thing, like something completely brand new, I guess, a
yeah. I
little
don't
bit.
I don't feel scared. Like I mean, because also like I'm about to like take like this leap essentially. So like what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like pay like I think a good amount of money for like this like coaching course thing or whatever. That's gonna like I think help me. But yeah, I like the only thing I'm scared about is that like I'm just gonna be like kind of like a fucking idiot basically. Like at the end of it, like I'm like basically pay this money. I'm like try doing this thing and it's just not gonna work. And then like 3 months later, I'm just gonna be right back to where I was. Like that's the only really thing that scares me. But it's not like a deep fear because it's only like, I guess 3 months, and I guess like I can always go
Or
back. Like I can always go
the
back.
entrepreneur.
Yeah, doing like the entrepreneur thing.
Yeah.
Like so like I I take this money, I buy like this like thing, and then I actually start trying to execute, start trying to like for example, doing like this YouTube stuff, going on calls with people and like trying to like sell them like on some like software that I made. Um, yeah,
It's
it's
it really amazes me that it's like it's so strange. In my life, like for me to like really deep dive in something, like I need there to be progress,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like I don't know if you watch any YouTubers with this guy, PewDiePie, right?
yeah.
The guy like posted like 500 videos to like nobody before he got big.
I didn't know that.
And
I had no
I
idea about that.
don't understand like how can you constantly post videos, edit videos, like put all that much time into videos and have knowing that nobody's going to watch them, hoping that eventually it'll make it through, right?
Yeah,
And he finally broke it big through like Happy Wheels or something like that. It was like
yeah,
one of the flat where like people like and then he started doing like horror games and he eventually just became one of the biggest YouTubers. But
yeah,
like I understand dedication and stuff like that, but you need for me like if I see literal no progress, it's really demoralizing to me. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think, well, for YouTube, at least I think for that it's
Yeah,
enjoying it. So they just make videos for fun. Like kind of like the same thing too. Like you're literally just streaming for fun. Like
that's true.
but they just keep doing it because they're just like, oh well, this is fun. I want to just keep doing it. Like there's like before, I think at that time of YouTube, like monetization wasn't even like a thing. Like it was just like, oh shoot, you can make money from this. Like now everybody wants to be like, I guess, Kylie Jenner and TikTok famous. Or like I want to be like, I think if you ask a kid, I think number one job is like influencer or something right now. But like yeah, like 20 years ago or whatever,
Really,
it's not. Yeah.
that's kind of depressing. Um,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, just imagine all the kids being like, I want to be a TikTok influencer. Goddamn.
Yeah, but
But yeah,
anyways,
it's
I think that if you it's kind of weird too because you said that like you're not you don't really like enjoy doing like I guess the coding stuff once you have your full-time job. But I guess I don't know. I
I mean
guess we'll see
like
what
I
happens.
do. Like I wouldn't be doing all the coding stuff if it weren't for the fact that I kind of do enjoy it. It's just like when I have my full time job, it sort of gets busy. I'm not able to do my leak code stuff all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
But like if
for
you
sure.
threw me a leak code question, I would do it.
No,
And I get rusty eventually. Um, yeah, I feel like leak code, but just like the website itself, made practicing so much easier. I remember when I just first started out, when I just first graduated from university, we were reading this book called Cracking the Coding Interview.
that book sucked. I
Uh,
hated that book.
I'm like, why am I reading like from a book and looking at the answer in the back? And I was just like, oh my god. And I remember like doing two sum, and they were like using like memory like bit arrays. Like basically you like go into you have an array of zeros and ones, and then you just flip it on or something like that. It was like yeah, the same letter or something like that. If you have the same letter twice, you would
Hmm.
just check that bit 0 to 26 to see if it's on, and if
Yeah,
it is, like you return true. And then thinking about that, I'm like, oh, you can just use a hash set, but they didn't. I don't know why they didn't do it. It was such a weird book, but I remember doing that and I hated it because when because it just felt like I'm reading a textbook, but when you actually gamify it, sort of like what Leetcode does, sort of making it into like a Git push repository, sort of having like contests and all of these questions, it becomes very manageable. You know?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. We'll
Cool.
call it here, and I guess you can get to your things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll. I mean, I'm guessing you're gonna most likely just going to keep streaming or whatever, or at least be in Discord and
Uh,
uh.
I got head out in like half an hour, so I'm probably just gonna quit streaming.
Oh, I
If
meant
Pat wants
just.
to go on, he has to. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you're talking to me or
That's
you're
what
talking
I'm
to
gonna
the
do now.
chat.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not gonna keep streaming.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But yeah, if Pat wants to go online and do you want to play Maple Story, Raymond? Have you played Maple Story in the
Bro,
past?
I'm not playing Maple Story. Yeah, I've never. I think I maybe played it when I was like 10 years old or something. I don't know, but I don't know anything about that
Okay.
game.
Oh, there.
I
NCC was asking. Okay.
Oh, he said, yeah, there's no way I'm playing that. I would maybe play League of Legends, maybe. Also, someone from my chat
Uh,
said, please tell Steven to follow his intuition. If he wants to build a game, let him build it. Yeah, I think, yeah, again, I'm biased, so I don't want to influence you, but I do think you should do the game. I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be really cool.
I feel like it, I feel like it's just feels so weird. If it doesn't take a lot of time and effort, and you have no idea if at the very end, I'm scared that like you do all that time, you spend like a year build like more than maybe like half a year building the game, and then you just like that's what you said, right? You just come back to exactly where you are, where you're just
Yeah,
like, well, made the game. Now I just gotta go back and go find another job where you could
yeah,
have done that half a year ago. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. But yeah, I mean, like the idea is that you're working towards, I guess, some secondary thing, right? So at least like one reason I say it for you is that I think that like at least with like the disillusionment, with like the bureaucracy, politics and office or whatever like that. But like if you do solo, um, you're kind of working on these skills. I think you're building skills, you're learning things, and then that's going to help you forward in the future. So you fail at your first game, and then maybe on your 10th game, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
it takes you 10 games. You just got to fail 10 times, and then you get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. Maybe like I used to be pretty good at Unity. Like I actually have I made a whole bunch of games for like game jams and stuff like that back in
yeah,
the day. Uh, like 2015, 16, and 17, I did all three game jams, and
hmm
I think I did one like 2018 as well. But yeah, um, but who knows? It's been a while since I worked in C sharp though. Uh, it is what it is. It's like
yeah,
like I said, it's more about the scary unknown, being like, what happens if it just doesn't work out and you just wasted your time,
yeah,
and now you wasted like a year of your savings, right? Where you
yeah,
could have literally not done that.
yeah,
Just like
yeah,
damn,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I know,
I mean, it's
and
just
like
it's for sure
realistically,
scary.
yeah. And realistically, it's not even like I have a passion for building games. It's not like, oh, I have this game idea that I need to build. Like I have a vision. It's sort of just like I used to want to build games because I played games. Like I played League of Legends, right? I played StarCraft 2, and I was like, it'll be cool to build these games. But life feels really sad when you actually re-up on stuff. Because like I remember in university, I was like debating because I was like, okay, should I apply to like Blizzard, Activision? Should I apply to like all the Ubisoft places? So I applied to Ubisoft, and I actually got an offer from Ubisoft, right?
Yeah,
And like it's all convenient. So like you can judge salaries all you want. So my first job I got was around 75K a year, right? Salary. And you want to know how much Ubisoft was paying me?
yeah. I mean, yeah, game dev sucks, so I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they did like 20 an
Ubisoft?
hour.
No, Ubisoft paid me 45K. Yeah, it was 20 an hour.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
that's
like,
crazy.
that's unheard of, right?
Yeah, that's so low.
Yeah. So it's like, and I'm just like, and then you read about stuff like crunch time and stuff like that. Um, yeah, all the people getting abused at like Blizzard Activision, and then just sort of gives you this idea of like if you
Yeah,
want to work at the like gaming companies, it's just less pay for more work,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, damn, that is so sad, right?
No, that was me too. I was
Like,
like, dang, I want to make video games. Like honestly, because I played video games all the time when I was younger. I was like, let's do it. And then you
yeah,
look at it, it's like, oh wow. So you pay like nothing, and I work really hard. Okay, I'm good. No thanks.
yeah. So like, I'm out,
Yeah,
and I just went to a regular tech job,
yeah,
um, which is, but like, yeah, like there's like no games like I want to build. It was sort of just like maybe if maybe I'll have an idea, I'll try it out. But it's sort of like I think my creativity is just it's like it's gone, and I don't know. Like it's very hard to just be like, yeah, let's just build out 5 games.
yeah,
um, and I need
yeah,
to go back and do some tutorials again and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, I wish I had more time to kind of go into that. Like essentially, like why, yeah, like what's happening with like the creativity. because for me, like since I quit my job at EasyPost, my creativity has actually exploded. I've had like I have ideas like all the time, and it's for me it's bad. But I don't know. Maybe we're just like we could just be like just have two different personalities. Like there's right like people are all different. Like there's and I know my temperament is I just like jump around from thing to thing. Like I've always been like that. But
I've always
yeah.
been creative on stuff whenever I'm like working on something. I'm like, oh, you could do that. You could do this. You could do this.
Okay.
I've never been creative and like give you a blank slate, and then you just work. Give me a masterpiece.
Okay.
I can never do that. It was never like, oh, just a brand new idea. It was always like, oh yeah, you have this thing already built. What if we change this a little bit? What if we do that a little bit? And that'd be really cool.
Okay.
I guess it's just like maybe a different personality type. All right, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, we can end it here and all right, peace, Steven.
All right.
And yeah, no, thanks a lot. I'll see if there's anyone who said anything. I don't think so, but uh nope,
If there's
nothing.
anyone else, cool. Anyway, yeah. Um, all the best.
Okay, yeah.
Are you
See ya,
gonna
and
keep streaming?
I'll send you. I'm gonna send you the. I don't think I'm gonna stream. I'll. I mean, I can stream for a little bit. I can stay on for a little bit, but I'll send you like the video of this too. I guess like before I post it, and then I'll send you a copy of it too if you want. Yeah.
Have you? Okay, so how many people have you interviewed? You've interviewed Simon, right?